Hello everyone, my name is El Parnaso and in today's video I'm gonna jam about the new hand trap coming soon, Fidraulis Harmonia. As you can see, I already have my undisputedly legit playset of the card, so let's talk about it. In order to do so, first we need to confirm if this card can actually fulfill its activation requirements in a Yami deck. After that, we're gonna see how actually useful is the card either going first or second after the Yami deck fulfill their activation requirements. So the template for the Yami example that we are going to use for today's video is going to be the clean Yami Asamina that I've been discussing in this channel a lot. So if you have any curiosity or any misunderstanding when I'm showing weird shit from the deck, you can see the whole playset. I have a lot of discussion and I'm gonna have a lot of more discussion because there's still a lot to talk about when it comes to Yami, especially when it comes to Yami Asamina. So here first, let's try to understand the card right here. Whenever your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you can reveal this card from your hand and up to five synchro monsters in your extra deck. And depending on how many cards in total you reveal, you can activate up to 3 different effects in sequence. If you reveal 2, you can just special summon this card from your hand. If you reveal 4, you can special summon this card from your hand and send one of the synchro monsters revealed from your extra deck to the graveyard. However, if you reveal 6, the maximum, you can special summon this card, you can send one of the synchro revealed to the graveyard, and you can destroy any monster from your opponent's field. So as you can see, this card is pretty powerful and there's a whole diversity of usefulness from this card in a whole diversity of decks. But can actually a Yami deck fulfill those requirements? Because as you can see, the problem with the card, just by what I told you up until now, is that this card needs to reveal 5 synchro monsters from your extra deck in order to have their actual fulfillment of the card's purposes, right? Which is to destroy a monster on the field, to punish your opponent for activating a monster effect on the field. So in order to do so, we need to see if the Yami deck can actually have up to 5 or more synchro monsters in the extra deck. Now that can be actually a problem more than you may think, because unlike popular belief, Yami is not that much of a synchro deck than it is a link deck. You can see that, for example, by just showing how many link monsters you play, even though Snatchy is at 1. Like you can see right here, these are 6 from 15. If that is not even enough of a problem, you already need to use 3 other spaces to play fusion monsters, right? Because of the Sinful package. So, regardless of that, because of how the Yami Asamina works, you are actually playing a lot of synchro monsters. Obviously, you are playing these 3 because of the Yami cards, and you are playing these other 3. If you are using El Sere in the deck still as a bridge, you are going to play different synchro monsters here. However, these are still going to be synchro monster cards. So that's completely fine. There are still going to be 6 monsters that are synchros in your extra deck. Therefore, you have even one more synchro to fulfill all the 3 effects of the Harmonia, especially the one that you care the most, the last one, the one that you actually need to reveal 5 synchros. So the problem here starts when you completely read the card, because the card says also you cannot activate the effects of monsters special summon from the extra deck until the end of your next turn, except synchro monsters. That will start to become a problem later, but let's say that you are going first. You are going first and you drew any of your combo, and one of your non-engine is the Harmonia. The first problem that you're going to have to try to fix in that scenario is that in the development of your combo, you are going to use a lot of different synchro monsters. You are going to use this to search for your Yami cards. You are going to use this as the Yami synchro in the end board. And if you watch my videos, you know that you are also going to use this tree. What does that mean? That means that the only synchro in your extra deck after you made your combo is just going to be the Cookie Yami way, right? If you don't make your combo, there's a scenario when you, for example, just make the Snatchy and pass for whatever happened. Like, for example, let's say that you got Fuwa. There, in those scenarios, you most likely are going to still have this card live, because from these 6 synchros, most likely the only one that you are going to use whenever you get interrupted is just this one. And therefore, you are still going to have 5. And then you may even have 6 depending on the tempo, because you are returning this one, which allows you to use any of the other 2 in order to keep making your Yami plays, even and you still will have 5 synchros in your extra deck. So whenever you are going first and you are getting interrupted, you can make kind of a half of an M board, and you still take advantage of that, of the full advantage of the Harmonia, thanks to that half of an M board, because usually those half of M boards will be one of these 2. And therefore you will still have, as I explained, the requirements to use the pop effect, right? Now, let's say that you go uninterrupted, and you are doing your full combo, and you already have the Harmonia on one of the cards that you drew is the Harmonia during the development of your combo, right? How you can take advantage of the Harmonia in that scenario? That's the first actual problem that this deck is going to have whenever the Harmonia is developed. As you can see, as you just heard by me, whenever you get interrupted, there are scenarios when the Harmonia is still going to be completely useful. However, if you made your whole combo, this is actually going to be the only synchro, because you use all of them. This is the only one in your extra deck. So the only effect that you can actually use at that point is just a special summon this card. Now, you take advantage of this card, the special summoning itself, whenever your opponent is playing? Yes, you can, because if you are already playing, that means that you have a Snatchy on the board, or availability to the Snatchy. Therefore, you have the effect to make synchro during your opponent's turn, as long as you use any monster Yami. All of your Yami monsters are level 1, which means that any Yami monster plus the Harmonia, that just happens to be a level 7 tuner, will make, therefore, can make the Frame Lord Omega, that then will become an interaction, because you can rip one of the cards in your opponent's hand, right? Like, for example, whatever Lucina search, you can threat to banish it. You can try to banish a Trust or a Talents before they can use it, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of things that you can do, right? Now, the problem, first, as you can see, this Omega don't have a sleep. And that's the first problem, that in order to use this card, you have to actually have it in your deck. And then first, technically you can take this. You can take one of these, but then the combo to thread the nib before you making this is just kind of messy, and it's not going to come up that much. So you are going to be in a scenario when you most likely are going to have to take one of your Link 1 consistency monsters, which is not an ideal scenario either, and that's something to still work and discuss about when it comes to the Omega. Is it worth to put the Omega between any of the spaces of your 15? How much damage your deck is taking by, for example, taking out the Link Spider or taking out the Almirage? So that's something to still discuss, and that's a problem that you actually need to answer. And if this video gets to 20 likes, I will make another video explaining in depth the consequences and the interpretation of different environments that can help you to make a decision of what card you can actually take. Now, those scenarios are the two situations whenever you're going first. Is whenever you go first and you get interrupted, and whenever you go first and you get uninterrupted. In both of those scenarios, especially in the second one, the omega is going to be kind of a necessity in your extra deck regardless of those two, because even if you get interrupted and you use the 3 effects showing 5 synchros, you still want to dump the omega, as it's the card that will make recyclability when it comes to the use of this effect, and interruption when it comes to interact with your opponent's graveyard, blah blah blah. So in both scenarios, the omega is a necessity in your extra deck, right? Now, there you can make an argument to just put these 4 in your side deck, and you can just add the omega, taking out whatever you need the less against your opponent that you know what is playing already, and put this, right? And whenever you are taking it out, you just take this out too. Now, in order to do so, you need to make yourself the question of how worth it is the interruption of this card and the sacrifice that you are making whenever you are activating the card. Because when you are going second, it's going to get a lot trickier. Why? Why is getting a lot trickier? Because then you are going to still need to make your plays to start to play the game. You are going second, you didn't make any combo whatsoever. So let's say that you are in a position of necessity and you need to actually make this effect in order for your opponent to not play the game, right? Like you use it, it's already there on the field, and your only play is a Yami name. Let's say that is the Marshmallow. This Marshmallow is no longer combo anymore. By itself won't do shit, technically. Why? Because the Snatchy that you are going to special summon can activate its effect, because it's not a synchro monster that was a special summon from the extra deck. Therefore, this card can take the minion, and if you can take the minion, you can make any of your Yami names one card combo. Let's go for the other problem, the one card combo from the Sinful package. Ironically enough, these Magician Souls can still be one card combo, because these can still dig by the draws to either a normal summon or a Yami name that will allow for you to make either this, or even this without the effect, and having still the Magician Souls as the other level 1, and still make the plays. And technically in those scenarios, you don't need to make the effect of any of these 3, right? So funny enough, of all of this, the one that still works is the Magician Souls. So I really advise to play 2 of this shit. It's amazing. So, however, these 3 are no longer one card starters, and that's a huge problem, because even though you can still make the effect of this, you can still activate the Wanted, you can still activate the Deception, what you can activate no more is the Dark Magician of Destruction, the Murciélago to search, and you can even activate the Sylvia to negate, at least that turn. So you can see how making the decision of activating the Harmonia going second when you play Yami Asamina is a very high costly decision, because you are basically saying that for the next turn your deck is automatically a Malice deck, because now you don't have one card combos anymore. All of your deck is based in 2 card combos. You need to draw 2 Yamis, you need to draw one sinful card and 1 Yami. So you get the idea, right? Because yes, this is very tough, right? This is very tough because the Dark Magician of Destruction can't search the Magician Souls anymore. However, this can still become this, which means that this can still become this, What does that mean? That means that at least the harmonia between the yummy and the sinfuls kind of still works, in the sense that at least this is still a Ling 1 monster. So my advice at the moment will be that if you are playing the Harmonia and you are going second, you really need to be put in a position when you actually need, and I mean need, to activate this card to interrupt your opponent at that point, because you are losing a lot. Unless maybe you have a lot of engine cards in your hand that can kind of replace the losing of the one card combo interaction, which then can be kind of rewarded, especially when it comes to the Yami cards, because if you still revive the Snatchy after with a surprise, for example, this Snatchy now will use its effect because it was a special summon from the graveyard, and therefore you will still have the body that one Yami name can make, because then you can put the minion and just play, right? However, this is after, so the deck is still becoming a 2-card combo. As you can see, there's a lot of things to consider when you are using this as a hand trap whenever you are going second to stop your opponent to make their plays. There's, however, something worth to discuss when it comes to this card going second. What I think is worth it is that you can save the card and use it actually as a board breaker. What do I mean by that? First, we need to make a consensus when it comes to the understanding of the Yami plays, especially the Yami Asamina plays, and is how this deck starts to push, right? There's going to be a lot of scenarios when you are going to play, you're going second, and whenever you make the Snatchy, you are not using the effect, especially in, for example, mirror matches. There's going to be a lot of scenarios when you have two Yami names and you start to play and you make normal no effect, Snatchy no effect, and special no effect to try to play around and respect different disruptions from your opponent, right? What does that mean when it comes to this deck? It means that if the environment allows it, you don't actually need to use the Snatchy effect on summon from the extra deck, and you can still save it from whenever you are pushing the board with your Synchros, and this Synchros special summon the Snatchy from the graveyard. What does that mean? That if the format is shaped in a way that your opponent is going to use a monster effect in your turn, in those kind of scenarios when you are building your own board, you can save the Harmonia and use it to try to get rid of different cards that you may care when to get rid of in your opponent's board. Let's say that, for example, you're going against this deck, how is it called? The Magnet Warriors. You can get rid of this. You can guarantee to get rid of the Fusion Floodgate with this. Whenever they try to use any of the other interruptions, the Masquerena, the other Magnet Warrior, blah, 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 right? So you can use this to get rid of the Kultun level 5 RS that is also a Floodgate against you. This can get rid of, I don't know, Bagushka, etc., right? Like, whatever is relevant, you can use this, or there is an argument for using this as a board breaker too. Because in all of those scenarios, this will pop a monster, this will get rid of anything your opponent is using because you're sending the Omega to try to fuck with the opponent's graveyard, and still having the Omega in your extra deck after that. So if you can afford it, use one of your level 1 monsters to then waste one of your opponent's cards in hand because you're gonna banish it with the Omega then. Now, yes, if you use this as a board breaker, you are still locking yourself to the effects in the extra deck, right? Only synchro summons. However, as you can see, historically, when you are going second, you can take different scenarios when you are not going to use the effect of the Snatchy when you special summon it from the extra deck. So there's, when it comes to the Yami cards, a lot of scenarios when you can actually save the Harmonia and even if the format allows you to, you can make the Yami name. If they don't interact with that Yami name, you can go directly with the Snatchy, use the effect, and then you don't care about the restriction of the Harmonia anymore, because technically this will be the only link monster effect that you care in the extra deck whenever you're building a board going first, or even pushing against a board going second. Why do I say that? Because yes, you use a lot of different links, but you use those links because of the nature of the card. You use this not because of the effect, but allowing the consistency with different cards in your deck. You use this because of the summon requirement of the card and being a link 1. The same as this, both being recyclable constantly, that goes with the tempo of the deck. This to respect Nibiru. This because it's a Yami card. You never let anyone tell you otherwise. So as you can see, from all of this, the only effect that you're actually going to use is this and this. Technically this maybe against, I don't know, Murakumo or some shit like that, but you get the point, right? It's not that relevant. The relevance are these ones. And most of the time, you are going to start making the Snatchy effect. Or you can start with the Snatchy effect if you are expected to use this as a board breaker to play the game, right? Now, that's for the part of the Yami names whenever you decide to use the Harmonia as a board breaker. What the kind of a same logic goes with the sinful package, because whenever you are pushing against a board with, for example, Wanted or the Diablestar, the only fusion monster that you care about is the Dark Magician of Destruction, which is again something that almost all the time is the first thing that you are going to do, because this is the one that guarantees you the other level 1 monster in Magician Souls, that then will allow you to make the full combo Yami, because this becomes this, right? So you can, again, just as using the Snatchy effect, push directly with the Diablestar, go directly with the Dark Magician of Destruction, and only after you use the effect to add the Magician Souls, then you can just use the effect of the Harmonia to push on against the board. Why? Because technically you don't need this. What you need is your Yami plays and your consistency, right? Which is technically this. And this is something that you can do at the beginning when it comes to Wanted or the Diablestar. But even if you draw the Deception, or you start with activating Halo and sending whatever sinful card you have, even in any of those scenarios, the first play that you are going to make, or the first play that you can make, considering your decision of the Harmonia being a board breaker, is to go as first play again the Murciélago. The Murciélago will add the second sinful spoil card that you need, and then you won't need the other effects. Yes, you're losing technically the negate, but you are still threatening the negate and making the Yami plays still, because this again can become just the gravity controller. So and in those scenarios you are threatening to guarantee the Wanted, which guarantee a draw, so it's still threatening even if you are not summoning the Sylvia anymore. Again, just as you can see, because we are making the decision of trying to make a deep understanding of the deck and trying to respect the Harmonia, all of this yapping is just for you to, whenever in any format or at any point, are considering the Harmonia to be added in any Yami version that you decided to play. You can use this video as a template of how to guide yourself and when it comes to how to add the card to your Yami deck, and if it's actually worth it to add it to your deck because of all this sacrifice that you're making, and if the interactions that you're achieving are actually worth it when it comes to the successfully development of the card. So in synthesis, again, this card is not that valuable going first, but it's still useful when you are making your whole combo. It's also useful when you are making half combo, because you still have 5 synchros in your extra deck in those scenarios most of the time. When you are going second, it's a huge risk to use it as a hand trap in your opponent's turn, because then you are making your 1-card combo deck a 2-card combo deck, and that's a huge sacrifice. But if you can afford it, you are getting rewarded recovering the cards that you are losing at the beginning, thanks to how your Yami Asamina deck works. However, if you decide to wait and use it as a board breaker, there's a lot of different scenarios where you can actually play around the restriction and not care about it kinda anymore. So this is, after this template, it is for you to decide and to keep thinking. If you like the video, if you enjoy it, leave a like, share it with your people, leave a subscription, tell them to subscribe so the channel can keep growing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.